Psalms 46:1, it says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. The subject of thought of my heart is security and protection. We have all kinds. The world is full of all kinds of sorts of securities. We have Social Security. We've got job security. We have security doors. We have smoke alarms. You got bank security. We have the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force. All these are security for us. And we need to know that every one of these securities I'm talking about can fail. You can have a smoke alarm and your house catch on fire. If you got a dead battery, that alarm is no good. It failed. If you got things in your home that you think that you trusting on them, don't trust them. You're to trust God and not the things that. So security. But we need to know that our only security is God Himself. Amen. In Psalms 46:1, I read that first verse. It says it says God is. He didn't say that Israel, the president, politicians, the pope, the preacher, but God is our refuge. What is a refuge? It's a shelter. That's what it is. In a spiritual way, we have a shelter that we can go to, and it's called a refuge. So it says God is. He didn't say Israel and all these other people, but God is our only refuge. Who is God? You ever thought about who God is? God is King of Kings. He's Lord of Lords. He's a good shepherd. He's our refuge. Not as young, but He is. He's all these things. He's the great I am. And matter of fact, they asked, "What's your name?" He said, "I am that I am." So, security. David of old was pursued many times by Saul to kill him. And in Psalms 91, 1 through 11, if you want to read 91 through 11, I want you to think about these words that it says. It's kind of a lengthy reading in Psalms 91, but David was saying that he was safe and free. When you read these things, David went through a lot of troubles. I mean, they were trying to kill him all the time. And it says in verse 1, I'm just going to read 11 verses, and I want to think about these scriptures that's taught in Psalms 91, 1 through 11. It says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say unto the Lord, He is my refuge. There's that word refuge, my shelter. I will say, the Lord is my refuge and my fortress. And fortress is a military term where a garrison would bed up and stay. He's my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. The truth shall be a shield and a buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid of terror by night, nor the arrow that flieth by day, nor the pestilence that walk in darkness, nor destruction that wasteth the noonday. Now listen to verse 9. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge. Did David know he had a refuge? He could run to God when he had troubles and problems in any situation, and you and I too. We can run to this refuge. The word security means to be safe or free from danger. That's what a refuge is. To be safe or free from danger. Not refuge, but security. And we need that security. We need a place that we can run to in times of trouble. And hopefully we can get into a few that had these troubles and they look to the Lord for safety. And then verse 11 says, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Verse 1 says he's the shadow of the Almighty. The other day, Janice and I, it's been probably several weeks, I mentioned it in Bible study, but I try to catch my shadow. You ever try to do that? I was walking down Tebow Street exercising my daily 2-mile exercise, Janice and I seen the shadow there. And I said, I'm going to catch that thing. And I knew it was foolish to do that. But I'd run a little bit and I'd watch it go. Well, God is our shadow. He's right there. And he's not going to leave you nor forsake you. He's right there with every one of us. So he says we're in the shadow of the Almighty. In verse 2 he said he's that refuge and fortress we talked about. He's our security. He protects us from the snares in verse 3. In verse 4 he says he covers us with his feathers and under his wing. And I immediately thought about when I read that part how that old timers used to see the chickens. They'd have chickens and they'd raise their wings up and the little bitties would run under them wings and the mother hen would close it down to protect them and they would be safe. And that's what I thought about whenever he said he covers us with his feathers and under his wings. You know, in Matthew 23 it teaches that about that chicken and how they had safety with it. Verse 4 he says he covers with he's a buckler and a shield. The old times they used to have those round shields to fight off the arrows that were thrown at him by the enemy. And he says, I'm that protection for you. I'm like that buckler and I'm like that over there, that shield. And then that 11th verse that really stood out to me was, and I'm precious, a precious word right here. It says, for he shall, who is the he? God. For he shall give his angels charge over thee and all thy ways. In other words, we got some guardian angels. Most of us have witnessed that in your lives. I know we had a terrible, terrible wreck in Waldo, Florida. My doors I couldn't even open my doors. And it totaled my car, and Janice was with me, and Tasha, and Jake. Jake was just a little bitty baby. He just was probably 2 or 3 years old. And I can witness to you that the angel of God was with us, and only with us, the man I hit. That's the first thing I did when I got out. I tried to run and see if he was all right. He said, I'm fine. You got any insurance? That's what he said. I said, you don't worry about insurance. Main thing is you're alive. God has blessed you to live. It was my fault. But we make mistakes from time to time. But this guardian angel was right there. And then I got thinking back, Jane, this happened a few weeks ago when Jane and Janice, I believe it went to Valdosta, wasn't it, Jane? Jane and Janice went over to Valdosta. Well, she had a bubble in her tire and it blowed out. Well, there Jane and Janice were in another town, but there was a guardian angel right there. A policeman just so happened to come by, am I correct? And stop. And that I think God sends angels to people like that. Over in Hebrews 13:2, I believe it says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for some have entertained what? Angels unaware. There's angels out there protecting us and watching over us night or day. So we're safe with those angels. We have security of those angels. We're secure while we live here right now in God's kingdom. In 13 verse 6 of Hebrews it says, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man will do unto me. God is our rock. He's that rock you can run to. In the Corinthian letter it teaches about, he's that rock. Jesus Christ is that rock, and you can run to Jesus for protection or anything. He's our protector. He's our Savior. You know, we have battles, different kind of battles in our lives. And I'd like to read a couple battles that happened in the Old Testament. In 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17, it says, this Jehoshaphat was fixing to go against an army, and he realized he didn't have enough men and enough intelligence and enough training and all that to fight that battle. And then I think it's in the 3rd verse, I believe it is, or whatever. It says Jehoshaphat got all of them together, all his people together, and they started praying. And not only they started praying, they started fasting. And then it says in Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17, it comes right on down, and after he had prayed and they went through, I encourage you to read all of it, but for the sake of time, I just want to mention about this 17th verse. It says, ye shall not need to fight in this battle. We got battles we know to fight, but God's going to take care of your battles. If you just trust him and obey him and do what he says to do. So ye shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves and stand still and see the salvation of the Lord with you. O Judah and Jerusalem, fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord be with thee. Over and over, the Bible is telling us how we got security or safety or free from danger. There's a danger out there. I'm going to tell you now, over in 2 Timothy, I believe it is, in the 3rd chapter, it says, this I know that perilous times shall come. We in perilous times, folks. We in perilous times. There's people, just like that Paddock or whatever his name was, shot all those people for no reason. They cannot, there's no motive why the man done what he did. Well, I can tell you what it is. It's of evil. This country is split up and we're in a mess. But it tells us that if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves, pray, seek, and turn from their wicked ways. This nation needs to turn from their wicked ways. And I'll hear from heaven, and I'll heal your land. Do we need to do that? Yes, we need to humble. Not be proud people, but humble ourselves. Humble ourselves before the mighty hand of God, and he'll lift you up. And he'll lift this nation up if we turn to him and do what he says to do. I thought about another one over in 2 Kings. Y'all familiar with every one of them, but 2 Kings, Elisha and his servant, the Syrian army was fixing to go to war, and Elisha kept listening in the bedchamber what was going on, what their tactics were. And as he was looking at those tactics, he'd go back and tell the others about it. And they finally come down, they realize somebody is, I call it tattletelling. Somebody's letting out the news of what we're going to do with our strategy of the war. And they said, well, it's not us, it's Elisha. Elisha. They said, well, where is he? He said, he's over in Dothan. And they told him where he's at. Now I want you to listen to what happens to all this. In 2 Kings 6, verse 13, it says, and he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. For it was told, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore he sent thither horses and chariots and a great host. And they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early to go forth, behold, an host and compassed the city both with horses and chariots. Now here they come, and all this army coming. And his servant said unto him, alas, master, what shall I do? Have you ever been in that situation? You didn't see God's army? He had an army about him. Here comes the Syrian army, but he couldn't see nothing but the Syrian army. But Elisha saw another army. And you and I can see another army. And it's the army of God. He said, alas, master, what shall we do? And he answered, fear not. Don't be scared. Fear not, for they be more with us than they are being with them. In other words, they were safe because God's army was there. That's why they were safe. Listen to this. Now, this is beautiful here. It says in verse 17, then Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. He couldn't see. But when the Lord opened his eyes up, he could see the army of God. And not only that, it even gets prettier and prettier as you read on down. they prayed that their eyes would be blinded. The enemy that was coming, Syrian army. They blinded their eyes now. And what would you and I want to do? We'd want to kill them, wouldn't we? God blinded their eyes, the ones that was coming to kill Elisha and his servant, and they blinded his eyes. But then he could see, but then their eyes were closed, and I would want to kill them. That's what I'd want to do. But Matthew 5:44 pretty well explains something for us hard to do. Love your enemies. Bless them that persecute you and despitefully use you and say all evil manner against you. We're to love our enemies, and that was their enemy. That was the enemy. You know what they did? If you read on when you get home about it, they took them into enemy camp and give them food and water. That's the love of God. That's the love of God. Don't you imagine that they were real appreciative once they were turned loose? They were going to kill them, but no, it wound up the opposite specter, and they wound up that. So there's battles in our lives. I thought about Noah himself. Oh, Noah, he had a safety place to go to when he obeyed God. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, there was wickedness in the land. People were wicked. Well, I started off telling you we were living in perilous times. Well, back then they were living in perilous times too. But it says that Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord finally told him to go build an ark. And Noah built that ark by the specs. And it was big as a kiddie hole in the Navy used to have. But he built it, and that was the thing that saved his life. Once the rain started coming, and the flood started, I can picture people beating on the door trying to get in then. They were ready to get in, but it was too late. I think Brother Josh one time preached about too late a doctrine. But nevertheless, God shut the door. And that was the safety for 8 souls right there. They had security. And their life was spared because they had done what God told them to. I'm not going to go over in Matthew chapter 14, verse 24. I'll just paraphrase it right quick. That how not only you go through battles, but you go through storms of life. And this was a real storm. Jesus, he told his disciples they had just had a miracle, the fish and the bread and all that. And then he told his disciples, I want you to go out in the boat. And they went out there and did what God said. Well, God sent them out there, and then a big storm come. And when the big storm come, they were scared, it says. And when they were scared, because the wind was boisterous, and they was fixing to sink or either drown out there in that water, And here comes Jesus walking to them on the water. And Peter recognized him. He said, Lord, let me come to you. And the boisterous winds, now I rode in some pretty rough seas when I was in the Navy. We'd take 45-degree rolls, and I can just picture this ship rolling back into it, fixing to sink and drown everybody. And Peter started walking toward him, and he was looking to Jesus. And Jesus reached out. He was saying, Lord, save me. What was he saying? He wasn't wanting eternal salvation there. He was wanting to not drown. And God picked him up, and he said, oh, you of little faith. Yeah. Oh, you of little faith. How much faith do we use sometimes? Very little. So that's another example of one that was safe, because if you look to Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith, things will change in your life. Now, Peter had that great faith, they called it, when he was walking on water. I knew I would have to have some great faith to walk on water, go down the still river. And somebody told me one time they tried to do it, and they went in. I don't remember who it was, but you got to have faith enough to walk. And Jesus at that time used it in a miraculous way to show you that faith is important, and we need to exercise that faith. We talked about Elisha and his servant. We talked about Jehoshaphat that prayed. Moses himself, think about this, I'm going to hurry on, but Moses, in Exodus chapter 14, 13 and 14 is what I want to get to, but Moses was told to go get God's children, Israel, out of Egyptian bondage. And he used all kinds of excuses. We won't look at that, but he said, I can't speak. God took care of that problem. He said, I'll send Aaron with you. That's your brother or half-brother, one or the other. So that wound that up. Anyway, he went into Egypt. He come out and they was in the desert. You remember how they was heading toward the Red Sea? They got boxed in. Here comes the army of Pharaoh. His heart had been hardened. But then here comes the Pharaoh and his army, and I could see those glistening swords and shields and men that looked rough and were well trained. And here they come after Moses, and the children of Israel was going to kill them. But you know what he told him? Moses told the children of God, Israel, he said, I want you to stand still and see the salvation of God. God will take care of your problem. He took care of them by day and night, pillar and fire. And he wound up, they went through the Red Sea. That's a blessing. God blessed them, and they were safe. They were secure. Now, let me just go ahead and change gears here just a minute. There's one I skipped over that I had on my notes, and that's eternal security. Eternal security. We got security now, but they'll fail. Policemen, fire trucks, it don't matter what kind, you think you got security, it will fail you. So this is one security that will not fail. God is our security. He's our eternal security. In Romans 8:38, Paul put it like this, and all of God's word is inspired by God, and men wrote it. And Paul wrote this, and he said, for I am persuaded that neither death, no life, no angels, no principalities, no powers, no things present, no things to come will be able to separate you from what? The love of God. We are saved, Ephesians 2:8, I believe it is, we are saved by grace and not by works, and nothing by works. We're saved eternally by grace and not of ourselves. It's a gift of God. And it's a gift of God. And that precious gift of God, we can't make ourselves do anything to go to eternal heaven. You have been bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. And that's the only way it'll ever be. Jesus Christ came to save his people. Matthew 1:21, you know it well, that she shall bring forth a son. They call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. And he did it. He did 100% saved us. Now we walk contrary to God, and we live a hell on earth sometimes. But thank God we got a kingdom, that peace and joy and righteousness we have right now while we live, and we can enjoy it right now. But more than that, I'm thankful for that eternal security that we have in Christ Jesus. That's all I'm going to say.